welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a little different than almost anything I've done on here, and we're going to be doing a little story time, but I'm going to be telling you the history of Halloween, but like a Hollyfied version. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this style of video. If you do, let me know. I would be happy to do more things like this in the future, but I just thought this would be a fun way to kind of talk about the history of Halloween, because it's really fascinating how we got from these old Celtic traditions to the Halloween we have now. So let's get into it. So going way back 2,000 years ago, Halloween started as an ancient Celtic tradition called Samhain. Samhain? It reads like Sam Hain, but it's pronounced Samhain. So this was 2,000 years ago, and this holiday marked the end of the summer, the harvest, and the beginning of the cold, dead winter, which people often, associated winter with death. They also believed that on October 31st, during this festival and this time period, the line between the living and the dead was blurred. Not only could you better maybe communicate with the dead, Celtics also believed that you could better tell fortunes during this time, which I think is so random and interesting, especially because fortune tellers don't really seem like they have anything to do with like the dead, but they're always like a figure in Halloween, just like stuff, Halloween antics. So I think that's really interesting that there is a connection there, that they believed that you could better tell fortunes on this specific day. But lastly, they also believed that ghosts could return to Earth, which is wild to think about, because there are many cultures that have this idea that you can either, like the line between the living and the dead is thinner or blurred, or you can talk to them, or they visit Earth or whatever. Like, so many different cultures believe this same thing around this time of year, that it makes me wonder, what evidence did they have to believe this? Surely it wasn't just like, I think this. I mean, mainly it could be. We don't know. I don't know. I wasn't there. But it seems like there had to have been some consistency and some happenings that made people start to believe, it seems like this time of year, things are spooky ooky and the ghosts be talking more. So I don't know. I would love to be a fly on the wall of like people thinking that in early days. During these celebrations, Celtic people often extinguished the fires in their own homes, built big bonfires, wore costumes of animal skins and spooky ooky things, and they would dance around this fire, tell each other's fortunes, and it sounds like a grand old time if you ask me. Like, that just sounds like fun. I don't know. Dance around the fire and tell fortunes. That's a good time. Then later on, when the Roman Empire rose to power et tu, Brute, they combined, as they took over kind of the Irish, the land we know now as Ireland, where the Celts live, as they kind of took over this area, Samhain combined with a Roman holiday called Feralia? I'm gonna say Feralia? I don't know, one of those. This holiday signified the passing of the dead, and another holiday nearby honored the god of fruits and trees, Pomona, and her symbol was the apple, which is why some people believe that we have this custom of bobbing for apples during Halloween season. But these holidays kind of combined and morphed into a little bit closer to more of the Halloween that we know today. And at this time, costumes sort of At this time, costumes started to morph from just kind of using what you had, animal skins, all that sort of stuff, to really having like a purposeful, spooky vibe to them. But they also were meant to conceal your identity, which I think is really interesting, because obviously how we wear costumes has changed a lot, and now we let a lot of pop culture influence our costume choices. But back then it was all about being like creepy, but the number one was hiding your identity, which turns out to be pretty convenient because a lot of people actually got up to some mischief around Halloween. And the reason now that we have trick-or-treating and parties and events the way that we do is because people noticed, especially teenagers in their, you know, unidentifiable costumes, would go around making mischief and causing problems. And so I think people very intelligently refocus that energy into something else, and now we have trick-or-treating. All right, we're getting ahead of ourselves with the whole trick-or-treating business. We need to go back a little bit. This is all the way back to the 9th century. And this is when Christianity started to really spread in popularity and bleed over into the Celtic lands specifically. As the church had more and more influence, they eventually came up with a holiday called All Saints' Day, which was celebrated on November 2nd. All Saints' Day was conveniently also a day to celebrate the dead, and very, very close to the Celtic holiday. And a lot of people believe that the church was just trying to offer a church-sanctioned holiday to kind of replace the traditions that were already there and have like a reason that's church-based behind it, if that makes sense. So All Souls Day was very similar to Samhain, where bonfires, costumes, all of that good stuff was celebrated. So you might not necessarily know of All Saints Day. I feel like it's less common to know of that than it is to know of All Hallows or All Hallows Eve. So okay, hold on. Okay. This is Middle English. All Hallowmas means All Saints Day. So All Hallowmas, All Saints Day slowly translated into All Hallows, which eventually became All Hallows Eve, which eventually became Halloween. Does that make sense? So we got like Samhain Feralia / Pomodoro. Hold on. We've got Samhain Feralia Pomona. Okay. We've got Samhain Feralia Pomona. Then we have All Saints Day. There's also a little bit of, we have All Saints Day that has influence in there that becomes All Souls Day, which becomes Hallowmas / All Saints, All Hallows, All Hallows Eve, Halloween. Does that make sense? That's how we got to Halloween. Okay. It's a lot. I mean,
All Saints Day, that's all I got.
It's a lot. So now we're gonna fast forward a little bit, and after years and years and years of Halloween kind of morphing, then America begins to be discovered and settled and colonized and all of those crazy things. And so in colonial New England, Halloween was not very popular, mainly because of like strict Protestant beliefs and customs, if you will. But kind of starting at like Maryland and going to the southern states, Halloween was pretty popular. They had what were called play parties, and they would also have big bonfires and tell each other's fortunes, once again, wear costumes and do other fun stuff. These colonial Halloween festivities also included telling stories of ghosts, telling stories of the dead, and mischief making, which is key because we know what that turns into. We don't need to rehash it. You got it? Cool. So as Halloween continues to morph, we also have the influence of Native Americans, and then also we have a lot of people immigrating to America, specifically after the Irish potato famine. After the Irish potato famine, we have a lot of Irish people coming over to America. And so those influences continue to change how we have Halloween today, which I think is really cool because obviously America is a melting pot of all different cultures and backgrounds. And I think that's the best part about America, baby. But I think it's also really cool that we have this super unique version of Halloween that was morphed over all of these years of the Irish, the Romans, the Native Americans. Like, there's just so many influences that combined to make the awesome Halloween that we all know and love today.
I never felt so passionate about Halloween.
Right? Okay, so we were talking a little bit about how trick-or-treating kind of was a way to guide people to better ways of acting during Halloween and staying away from such mischief. Well, another reason that we have trick-or-treating is because we're borrowing from some European traditions where people would go to each other's houses and ask for food or money, which, let me just say, adults in America are like not allowed to trick or treat. It's like not a thing. It's like if you show up and you're past the age of like 13, maybe 15, definitely 18, I'm like, what are you doing on my doorstep? So can we make an adult version of this where we can trick or treat for food and money? Because like if you've got a charcuterie board and $5, I'll take it. You know what I mean? I don't need no snack size Snickers.
Bro, I'm going to the bougie.
I need a paycheck.
I'm going to the bougiest neighborhood.
You know where I'm going. I'm going to the fattest house on the street and I'm saying, what you got? I don't need a king size candy bar. I don't even need a gummy Krabby Patty. I need $5 and a cup of coffee. I think that would be great. So I'm just saying, if everyone else is down to start that tradition, I'm with you. Okay. Another super random fun thing that I love is that apparently young women used to think that they could, using divine intervention, figure out the name of their future husband using tricks with yarn, apple parings, and mirrors. So I don't know what y'all was doing. I don't know if the yarn just spelled out Jeremy, but like I just think that's really interesting. And I also wonder if the whole mirror aspect has something to do with like Bloody Mary. I'm pretty sure that's not the case. I'm pretty sure there's like a whole separate history behind Bloody Mary, but Chicks was hanging around mirrors trying to see if David would pop up because she got a crush on David. And then John pops up and she's like, not John. You know? I think that's really, So now we've got that wave of Halloween. Then coming into kind of more modern times, people wanted to get away from the more spooky and grotesque side of Halloween, which I think is really interesting because in one part of my brain, I'm like, well, they didn't do a very good job of that. But then another part of my brain, I'm like, dang, they actually really did, because Halloween is very much like a kid-focused holiday in a lot of ways these days, versus in the past, it was kind of like the kids were just there, but it was like the adults really doing the partying. And now we have kid and adult Halloween parties. Kids like dress up in cute little characters. I mean, even adults dress up and less focus on, you know, spooky creatures, and they focus on a lot of pop culture, like I mentioned before, dressing up as our favorite characters from film and TV, and dressing up as things that are punny, like peanut butter and jelly. Like, that's not scary. So it kind of changed this cultural influence of getting away from the scary side of Halloween and adapting to something that would be a little bit more family friendly, focused on gathering with your neighbors and celebrating in community, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I'm also like, what happened to the spooky ookie? But I'm glad that our spooky pals over the years have made sure that Halloween has stayed true for the people that love it to that, you know, more eerie side, and talking about witches and goblins and zombies and ghosts and talking to the dead. I'm glad that that has still been preserved, and I hope that it continues to stay that way for however many millennia we have left before the sun eats us, you know. That got dark quick. Spooky doesn't matter because we're gonna get eaten by the sun. And that is, you know, loosely how we got to the Halloween that we have today. And now this is the second biggest commercial holiday for Americans. It goes Christmas, and then Halloween is right under there with $6 billion spent annually on Halloween preparations, celebrations, costumes, food, all that good stuff, which is crazy. And now we celebrate it in a different way, where we have whole movies and TV shows that take inspiration from this holiday. We decorate our houses and creepy stuff in ways that we never did, obviously, before, because we didn't have manufactured plastic skulls that you could buy at Spirit Halloween back in the 9th century, but we do now, so that's fun. And we just kind of can take everything to the next level now that we have the technology and ability to do so, which is so fun. I'm gonna do a little sidebar. So I'll leave the link below for the main article that I used to source information for this video. But I just wanted to give you guys a couple of little things they have in a separate section about matchmaking on Halloween, going back to those young ladies thinking they could come up with the name of their future husband using yarn, apparently, and other lesser known rituals, because I always feel like these are just so cool and interesting, and I just wonder, like, humans are so fascinating. Like, how did you just come around to the conclusion that doing this weird little thing would get you this outcome? And how often did it work for this to become like a whole ritual? I feel like this is one of those things where you try 2 to 10 times, and if you never get a result, it's like, okay, we'll drop it. But anyways, let's get into it. This one I find really funny because this is like the most Irish thing ever. In 18th century Ireland, a matchmaking cook might bury a ring in her mashed potatoes on Halloween night, hoping to bring true love to the diner who found it. Just all you gotta do is bury a ring in mashed potatoes, ladies. That's all it takes. In Scotland, fortune tellers recommended that an eligible young woman name a hazelnut for each of her suitors and then toss the nuts into the fireplace. The nut that burned to ashes rather than popping or exploding, the story went, represented the girl's future husband. In some versions of this legend, the opposite was true. The nut that burned away symbolized a love that would not last. Like, how cool. You could also make a sugary concoction of walnuts, hazelnuts, and nutmeg before bed on Halloween night, and you would dream about your future husband. I wonder if that's where we got some of our, like, hazelnut, nutmeggy, pumpkin pie spice going on, because people was chomping on it before bed, so they would dream about their future husband. They would also, young women would toss apple peels over their shoulders, hoping that the peels would fall on the floor in the shape of their future husband's initials. If that worked even one time, that is a miracle. There's no way. There's no way. They also tried to learn about their futures by peering at egg yolks floating in a bowl of water. They stood in front of mirrors in darkened rooms, holding candles and looking over their shoulders for their husbands' faces. But who did they find instead? Bloody Mary. So as you can see, there are many very interesting little rituals and traditions that have come in and out of fashion with Halloween. And like I said, I just love that we have this really interesting, very ever-changing version of Halloween, and it'll be very interesting to see how Halloween changes over the next 100 years or thousands of years. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little retelling of the origins of Halloween. If you did, please give it a like, hit the subscribe button down below. I'm uploading every single day until Halloween night, so you can't get rid of me yet. We've got a little while longer to go. Let me know if there are any other spooky stories you want me to tell on my channel before the end of the spooky season, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!